I've probably encountered a handful of cops that were willing to pay for services.
I've sat and listened and really couldn't believe what I was hearing.
First it was your small talk, like how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Are you still straight and sober? Are you still up to old habits? And as soon as he said old habits, I kind of got a sense of what he was talking about.
We've taken pictures and we've shared information with the OPP, but again, it's that willingness for them to say what's been going on, what's happening.
How do you get around that when there's stories of your own officer partaking in that life?
Ruth Machimity spent more than 5 years in the streets of Kenora, Ontario. She worked in the sex trade to feed a drug addiction. It was a life rooted in trauma, one that brought her into contact with some of Kenora's most powerful people.
When I think about some of the individuals who, I guess, required services, were people you'd, I guess, hold in high regard in society. I don't know how else to put that.
They are serious allegations, especially when they involve an active member of the Ontario Provincial Police. With her permission, we brought Ruth's claims forward to Kenora's detachment commander, Inspector Jeff Duggan.
This woman is on record naming the officer and saying this is what I did with him while he was an officer. He still is. And how do you get around that when there's stories of your own officer partaking in that life?
Well, clearly that's the first I've heard of it. I have never heard that before. But that's something that, if it was reported to the police, there are avenues that would be investigated. And then I talk about oversight agencies for policing services. The Special Investigations Unit would be notified right away. But that's certainly something that I do take an interest in, of course, and not something that I like to hear. But if it is happening, we need to know about it so that we can deal with it.
And while it may not be against the law to pay for sex, police are held to a different set of rules.
The prostitution laws have changed. What's illegal still though? The actual saying the number, the rate. What's illegal about?
I don't want to get into the actual legalities of it because that's something that I don't deal with every day, so I wouldn't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about police officers engaging in that, we have a Police Services Act that prohibits that. There's, it's about on-duty and off-duty conduct, and there certainly is criminal laws that speak to that, but there's certainly the Police Services Act that speaks to that as well.
Okay.
And given the seriousness of the allegations and the people involved, it's easy to see why victims of sexual exploitation don't typically come forward.
Where are we going?
Downtown?
Downtown?
Actually, you wanted to see places that I would have been picked up, right?
Yeah.
So when we get to the stop sign, the second stop sign, turn right.
At first glance, it's hard to believe that these streets are also the heart of Kenora's sex trade. This is one of the few times that Ruth's been back since she's been in recovery.
Okay, just like myself, and if I didn't have people believing in me and saying that I could get out of it, I'd probably still be walking around in this area alone downtown. I wandered around down here for 4 or 5 years, aimlessly around a 5-block radius. And a lot of the nights I spent just walking back and forth here.
Is this where they knew where to find you here?
There's this street and the next one.
She says most of the clients were older white men. And the sex workers were all indigenous. Women that she now fears are still being preyed upon.
You know, the one officer, do you feel like that, in a way, that officer has preyed on you? He preyed on your trauma, your addiction, your worst moments in life, preyed upon that? And and I'm wondering if you agree with that, do you think that he's doing that to others?
I'd say yes.
Why do you think that?
Because he did it to me. But as I said, for a long time I wanted to believe that I was in control, and when I look back at it, I had absolutely no control over anything. My addiction did, and he knew that. I knew that I needed to stay out of trouble. If he was willing to sweep that under the rug for me, he's probably doing it for a few other people that don't want to end up in jail or rack up more charges. Preying on the vulnerability of somebody, basically the way I did when I needed money for my drugs. It's a really bad cycle.
Homelessness, poverty, addiction. A vicious cycle of trauma and abuse that is deeply rooted in Canada's colonial past and present.
Kenora hasn't changed. The town has always been racist, and it still is. You know, we couldn't even walk the streets of Kenora. If you were only one Anishinaabe walking the streets, you'd get beaten up. This is where we had this platform, and we had all our people sitting here.
Systemic issues that Anishinaabe elder Tommy Kisik has been voicing for decades. Kisik was one of the leaders behind the historic Anishinaabe Park occupation in the summer of 1974.
The bullets went right through. A lot of us, when we thought, when we did this, what did we get ourselves into? You know, not knowing that, you know, what we may have waken up is not going to be too good. But we were ready for it anyways. You know, we thought, well, you know, a long time ago, our people gave our lives so that we continue to live the way we used to live. So if there's danger will come, they would meet danger the way it is. Even if it means giving up their life for the sakes of your children and stuff like that, to continue to live in the world that was given to us also.
Kenora was at a crossroads. 9% of the city's indigenous population was unemployed. The growing tension and economic divide eventually reached a breaking point.
What was the spark, though, that made you guys come here, though? What was, because you were dealing with a lot of abuse for so many years. It was just enough's enough, like, to hell with it, like, this is it, we're done with this?
Well, what we thought anyways, me, Louis Cameron, the four of us, we were noted as the leaders at that time. I'm 77 right now, and I'm still having that problem. We can't seem to get a way to get people to know that we did this for the sakes of making our lives a little more better for, not for us, but for our children, because we're losing everything.
For those who didn't live through it, it's hard to know how bad the situation really was. A report from the Grand Council of Treaty 3 at the time documented more than 200 deaths of Indigenous people in the region over a 3-year period.
And nothing being done. So to me, it was just everything just kind of came together, like the housing, the unemployment, the deaths, the mercury poisoning, like everything.
The armed occupation became a rallying cry for Anishinaabe like Lorraine Major. Major was only 31 years old when the park occupation happened.
Racism, we knew there was police, we knew that there was rednecks, kind of, that were really, they just wanted the people to leave, and they wanted people to shoot us. I know it was there, and we knew it. And we just said, well, they shoot us, they shoot us, We don't have much, so we were just kind of fighting for the right.
The 6-week standoff ended with a handful of protesters like Major being arrested on minor charges. Their simple demands of better living conditions, employment, and access to land were largely ignored.
It's too emotional. Well, they were brave. Yeah.
After the break, healing and redemption.
If I hold on to it, I'm not going to be able to let it go. I have to forgive myself before I can forgive anybody else. The other night when I realized that fear is what kept me where I was for so long, and finally realizing that, you know what, I'm capable of being loved, I'm capable of loving people.
It's been over 2 months since we last met with Ruth Machimity. She's come a long way in her healing journey, reflecting on a past that nearly destroyed her.
How did that happen a couple years ago for it to come out right at that moment? It was just something that was really significant and really touching for me. It was kind of gave me more of an open mind to where I am and where other people are, to be more mindful of somebody else's journey, that because I was there too.
But her journey hasn't been an easy one. According to Ruth, the OPP officer she was involved with has been actively trying to solicit her. The messages are always cryptic. He'll never come right out and say what he's looking for, especially when it comes to other women.
You told me on the phone that he asked you to find others. Can you take me through that conversation you had with him?
Well, most of the time that conversation isn't right out, can you find me other girls, or I'm willing to pay for this and that. It doesn't have that direct conversation. It's more when he'll call her, you say, well, we'll go for coffee or come for a visit. And it's not till we're actually talking that he'll say, like, well, if you're not going to assist me, can you find somebody else who can assist me? He won't right out say what he wants, but because of what I used to do, you kind of have to read between the lines with all that. And I don't know, he just knows the slang and the proper terminology for everything.
So what would he say then?
As I said, if you can't help me to get what I want, is there anybody else that would be willing to help me? And when he says help me, that means like the favors, the sexual favors.
Ruth has also taken her allegations to the OPP. That includes providing a statement. And a subsequent investigation has been launched by the OPP's Professional Standards Unit.
I don't know, I guess in a way I kind of feel like I'm trying to protect everybody else, because if I'm going there and talking to him and not presenting anybody else to him, he's not going to be able to find it. And that's kind of the way I'm trying to look at it, making it more difficult for him to find somebody. And in a lot of ways, if I keep stringing him along, maybe he'll get tired.
You know, there's always like these people that drive around town, and it's the same people. You know who it is, and it's not hard to find out who these people are that are soliciting these, you know, vulnerable people.
Craig Levan has experienced the dark side of Kenora firsthand. Growing up in Ontario's child welfare system, Levan has been living on and off the streets since he was just 11 years old.
Seeing a lot of my friends earlier on doing things for, you know, whatever we had to do to survive. And I still see a lot of my friends on the streets to this day that otherwise had a good path and good parents and things in front of them, but still ultimately chose the street life, right? Like just because I see as misery loves company, you know, we lose our friends and we're stuck in that mindset. Sometimes we don't get out of it.
It's a sad truth, not only in the city of Kenora, but across the country. Levan sees the racism, poverty, and addiction plaguing his community as a direct reflection of Canada's colonial system.
Keeping people a statistic or a commodity. That's all we are, is a commodity ever since. And that's just a sad truth. But what are the solutions now? And like, what are people like myself coming out of that system and realizing the changes that need to be made? And that's kind of more of what I'm seeing now for the future generations, is listening to each other and not condemning someone for their past.
It's part of the reason why Levan has taken a grassroots role in advocating for the city's most vulnerable population.
You know, I grew up here for the first, 4 or 5 years of my life, and I, played all around here, and just right down here is where my grandmother Mariah started to pick sweetgrass when I was born, and so this really means a lot to me, this land, and for my healing journey, because this is where I came back, to pay respects to my grandmother for teaching me a little bit of my culture for the first few years of my life. And coming back here to pick the sweetgrass every year and make offerings by this birch bark tree is something I do, every year. And that's something that's very, very powerful for myself to, be at the exact spot where my healing journey began, to be asked to make a trail for future generations to learn of what happened here, to educate people.
It's his way of helping stop the cycle of abuse and injustice he sees plays out on the streets of Kenora.
Say that people can change their lives around, and you don't have to be your story, but you can write a new chapter. That's for sure. So, never too late to change, and to help people change around you, to build capacity in people, and to just give people that chance to see life from a different lens.
Writing a new chapter, the power to change. It took Ruth Machimity a long time to believe in those words and come to terms with her past. One of the first people she opened up to was Elder Ken Nash.
Well, should be another good sweat.
Yep, can't wait.
When I met her, those were the things that we talked about, and I also realized not to focus on to tell her what she should be doing. I wanted that answer to come from her, and the only part I acknowledged in our first encounter was that she was an intelligent woman. She knew what she was talking about, and I knew she would do a lot for herself if the effort was there and if the support was there.
Nash runs this healing lodge just outside of Kenora. The lodge provides a culture-based healing program intended to break the cycles of violence, abuse, and addiction.
But I always use the 7 grandfather teachings to reach out to the clients, and asking them that question, what is your goal being here, and reminding them that humility is a big word for us. We all get a lesson in humility, and I think being here is definitely a humble experience, that you need to be patient.
Patience and humility. Important lessons that Nash has tried to instill in Ruth over the last few months.
I wanted her to grow on her own as well, that she could be independent and not be too dependent on me, right? And so it was great to see when she came to the Healing Lodge and to continuing her journey to live that addiction-free lifestyle, and you know, it's got to start somewhere, and I think she did it, and she's well on her way, and I hope more good things will come.
But healing takes time. And while Ruth has finally found the strength to believe in herself, acceptance is also about taking responsibility for the trauma she inflicted on others.
In a lot of ways, my head says I should feel guilty about it. I should be ashamed of what I did. Yeah, I would like to say that I'm sorry for the things I did to them, or put into their head. But I think I've forgiven myself for doing that. And that's the part of the perspective of saying, you know what, yeah, okay, I did that, I take responsibility for it. But if I hold on to that guilt, or how it made me feel at the time, or how I thought I felt about it, if I hold on to it, I'm not going to be able to let it go. I have to forgive myself before I can forgive anybody else.
Acceptance, letting go of the past. It's a journey of forgiveness that's still far from over.
And I know that I can never take back the time or the things I did or when I did that, but the understanding that they have, and just learning that there are people that love me unconditionally for whatever I've done, it's something I really can't explain.